There comes a moment in every nation's story when silence is no longer strength, when looking away becomes a crime against the future. That moment is now. For too long, the truth has been buried beneath comfort, convenience, and denial. But truth doesn't die, it waits. And now, it's risen. You can't heal what you won't face. You can't rise while holding on to lies. This isn't just about politics or headlines. It's about who we are, what we've become, and whether we have the courage to fix it. This isn't about fear. It's about responsibility. And America can't escape the truth anymore. You can turn away from the mirror, but it won't turn away from you. That's the truth we face right now. A mirror doesn't lie, doesn't flatter, doesn't twist the story to make you feel better. It shows what is. And when a nation looks in that mirror, when a people dare to confront their own reflection, they either grow or they shatter. For too long, America has been dancing around the truth, adjusting the lighting, changing the angle, telling itself, we're still the greatest. But greatness doesn't come from words, it comes from truth. And the truth is standing right in front of us, unforgiving, undeniable, and unbothered by how uncomfortable it makes us feel. You see, when you ignore the truth long enough, it starts showing up in your streets. It walks through your neighborhoods. It screams in your schools. It breaks through your politics. That's what's happening now. The truth is everywhere, and it's louder than ever. You can't scroll past it. You can't drown it out with entertainment. You can't hide behind your paycheck, your titles, your traditions. Because deep down, even behind the closed doors and the forced smiles, everybody knows something is broken. And no slogan, no speech, no spin can change that. We talk about freedom. We talk about justice. We sing songs about unity. But what's freedom if it doesn't reach every zip code? What's justice if it has a price tag? What's unity if it only exists when it's easy? The mirror shows us the cracks, the systemic inequality, the forgotten communities, the rising mental health crises, the endless cycles of violence. And it's not just one group or one issue. It's a web of broken promises wrapped in decades of denial. The mirror shows the toll it takes. The mother working 3 jobs and still behind on rent. The veteran begging on a corner with a flag stitched to his sleeve. The teenager wondering if his skin color is a threat. But you know what the mirror also shows? Potential. It shows power. It shows what we could be if we stopped lying to ourselves. Because facing the truth is painful, but it's also powerful. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from honesty. It comes from saying, yes, we've failed. Yes, we've stumbled, but we're not done. The mirror doesn't just reflect weakness. It reflects responsibility. And that responsibility is not just on the government. It's not just on the media. It's on each of us. Because every person has a mirror. Every home, every classroom, every workplace. We have to stop pretending we don't see what we see. That apathy, that's how decay wins. That shrug of the shoulders, that's how injustice survives. That silent nod when something feels off, but we say nothing, that's how truth gets buried. It's not enough to say, well, that's just how it is. It's not enough to wait for someone else to fix it. Truth is a choice, every day. And the longer you avoid it, the heavier it gets. Look around. The storms we see, social, political, spiritual, those aren't coming from nowhere. They're the result of decades of truth deferred, history silenced, wounds ignored. We've mastered the art of distractions, built industries around denial, but when the noise quiets, the mirror still waits. That's the moment of reckoning. That's where we are now. Some say facing the truth means tearing everything down. That's fear talking. Truth doesn't destroy, it rebuilds. But you can't rebuild what you won't admit is broken. That's why the mirror is necessary. It's not here to shame you. It's here to wake you up, to say, look at who you are. Look at what you've allowed. Now decide who you want to become. And yes, truth is risky. It demands change. It calls out the comfortable and challenges the powerful. It's easier to ignore it. It's easier to point fingers. But at some point, we have to stop blaming the past and start shaping the future. That means owning the reflection, not hiding from it. It means asking the hard questions. Who have we become? What are we teaching our children? What do we stand for? Really? Because a nation that refuses to face the truth is a nation that will eventually break under the weight of its own lies. But a nation that stares into the mirror and says, we can do better. We will do better. That's a nation that survives. That's a nation that heals. That's a nation that leads, not by shouting the loudest, but by doing the hard work when no one's watching. Truth has a way of humbling us. It strips away pride and ego and leaves us with only what's real. And in that raw, honest space, we find clarity, we find strength, we find purpose. The mirror isn't the enemy, denial is. And the longer we avoid the truth, the more it costs. Lives, dignity, hope. So it's time to stop looking away. It's time to stand still. Look that reflection dead in the eyes and own it. Not for guilt, not for shame, not for guilt, not for shame, not for guilt, not for shame. Find some center, find some sun, find some center. Look that reflection dead in the eyes and own it. Not for guilt, not for shame, not for guilt, not for shame. Find some center, find some love. Find some center, find some love, but for growth, for healing, for progress, because you can't fix what you won't face, and you can't face what you keep running from. America is in that moment. The mirror is waiting. The question is, will we look away again? Or will we finally see and rise? Comfort is a quiet killer. It doesn't shout. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It seduces. It tells you that everything is fine when it's not. And slowly, day by day, it builds a cage around your life. One that looks like luxury, feels like freedom, but holds you back more than chains ever could. That's the trap America fell into. A nation built on hustle, risk, and revolution has gotten too comfortable, too content with the way things are, too numb to the suffering outside the bubble of convenience. And in that comfort, truth has been sacrificed. Growth has been postponed. Responsibility has been delayed. Comfort has become the excuse, the shield, the reason not to speak up, not to stand up, not to shake things up. We've convinced ourselves that as long as our own world is quiet, as long as our paycheck clears, as long as the lights stay on and the fridge is full, everything must be okay. But that's the lie. Because real greatness never came from comfort. Real change was never born in a lounge chair. And the people who changed the world didn't do it from a place of ease. They did it through pain, pressure, and purpose. Look around. The world is hurting. Families are breaking under the weight of economic pressure. Communities are stuck in cycles of poverty and violence. Dreams are dying in schools that have given up. The system is tilted and everyone knows it. But what's the reaction? Distraction, comfort, another show to binge, another scroll on the screen. Anything but truth, anything but change. Because truth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, comfort became more valuable than character. That's the warning. When comfort becomes the goal, truth becomes the enemy. We stop asking questions. We stop pushing limits. We stop growing. Growth requires pain. It requires sacrifice. It requires looking in the mirror and saying, this isn't enough. I can be more. We can do better. But that's hard. So we avoid it. We settle. We rationalize. And in that process, we shrink. Not physically, but spiritually, morally, creatively. The fire dies out and the light dims. And that's not just a national problem, that's personal. Because every individual plays a role in this. Comfort keeps us from checking on our neighbors. Comfort keeps us from challenging injustice at work. Comfort stops us from taking risks that could change our lives. It teaches us to stay in the middle, not too loud, not too brave, not too involved, just safe, just average. But you weren't built for average. This country wasn't built on average. It was built on the backs of people who refused to be comfortable while others suffered. It was built by those who knew that comfort without conscience is a dead end. Ask yourself, what are you sacrificing for comfort? Your voice, your vision, your values? Because every time you stay silent in the name of keeping peace, every time you look away to avoid confrontation, you're paying a price. You might not see it now, but it adds up. It creates a world where the truth becomes distant, where lies become normal, where suffering becomes background noise, and before you know it, you're trapped. Not in chains, but in routine. Not in fear, but in numbness. That's the danger. The world doesn't need more people who are comfortable. It needs people who are courageous. People who are willing to step out of what's easy and walk into what's right. That doesn't mean reckless. That doesn't mean loud for no reason. It means standing for something, even when it's unpopular. It means being willing to disrupt comfort to pursue purpose. Because purpose will pull you into discomfort. That's where transformation lives. History has proven this again and again. Every movement that mattered came from discomfort. Civil rights, freedom struggles, revolutions, none of them were born in silence. They were born in pain, in confrontation, in tension. And today, the tension is still here. But too many have fallen asleep in the arms of comfort, hoping someone else will fight the battle, that someone else will tell the truth, that someone else will clean up the mess. But that someone else is you. You've got a responsibility, not just to yourself, but to the people coming after you, to the kids watching, the neighbors hurting, the communities depending on someone, anyone, to say enough. You can't do that from a place of comfort. You've got to step into the fire. That's where integrity is tested. That's where leadership is born. That's where truth lives. Comfort is temporary, but regret lasts a lifetime. You can coast for a while. You can pretend things don't affect you. But deep down, you know the truth. You know when things aren't right. You know when you've played it safe too long. And when that voice inside you speaks, don't silence it. Don't drown it out. That voice is trying to lead you to something real. You weren't created to play small. You weren't made to hide behind comfort. You were built to rise, to challenge, to lead, to love fiercely, to speak boldly, to live fully. And that life, that purpose, it's never found in comfort. It's found in the moments when you stand up, even when your knees shake, when you speak up, even when your voice cracks, when you show up, even when it's inconvenient. The time for comfort is over. The world is changing fast. The storm is here. And only those who are willing to let go of false peace will rise with real power. Only those who choose conviction over comfort will help lead the way forward. And the truth? truth no matter the cost. Because once you break free from the cage of comfort, nothing can stop you. And nothing can stop a nation filled with people who choose courage over convenience, truth over silence, and purpose over ease. That's when change begins. That's when truth wins. And that's when the real work of healing, building, and rising begins. Truth doesn't wait for the right time. It doesn't stand politely at the door, asking if you're ready. It doesn't come with a warning label or a soft introduction. Truth breaks in. It crashes through the walls you built to avoid it. It knocks over your comfort. It shatters your illusions. And it forces you to look at what you've tried so hard not to see. And when it does, it doesn't care if you're prepared. It's not concerned about your schedule. It comes when it's needed, not when it's wanted. That's the season America is in right now. The truth has broken in. The truth about injustice, the truth about inequality, the truth about division. It's all here, loud and raw and real. And you can't run from it anymore. You can't drown it in distractions. You can't silence it with denial. You can't cover it up with patriotic slogans or historical revisions. Because truth is not polite. It's not convenient. It doesn't serve comfort. It serves clarity. And clarity is dangerous when you've built your house on myths. For too long, stories have been told to protect reputations instead of reflect reality. Generations taught to believe in perfection instead of progress. But truth doesn't care about appearances. It doesn't fit into neat categories. It forces you to deal with the pain you've avoided, the lies you've accepted, and the systems you've ignored. It's showing up in the streets, in protests that demand more than words. It's screaming from hospital beds where basic care is still a privilege for some and not a right for all. It's echoing in broken school systems, overflowing prisons, and working-class communities stretched to the edge. These aren't isolated problems. They are connected symptoms of a deeper truth. A truth that this country, for all its power and promise, has failed to live up to its ideals. And now, the reckoning is here. Not to destroy, but to awaken. To rebuild. To restore. But restoration doesn't come without confrontation. You don't clean the wound by pretending it's not there. You clean it by uncovering it, facing it, and doing the painful work of healing. That's what truth requires. That's what this moment demands. You see, you can't grow without friction. You can't evolve without pressure. And pressure is what truth applies. It doesn't allow you to be neutral. It doesn't let you sit on the fence. When truth walks into the room, you have to make a choice. Stand with it or run from it. And every choice has consequences. Every silence has weight. Every compromise leaves a mark. Some will resist. Some will call truth an attack. Some will try to label it as rebellion, disrespect, or chaos. But the real chaos is pretending everything is fine when it's not. The real disrespect is ignoring the suffering of your fellow human beings. The real rebellion is living in lies while demanding peace. This isn't about one political side or the other. This isn't about left or right. This is about what's right. Period. It's about truth demanding a seat at the table that's long been filled with excuses. It's about no longer accepting a version of reality that only works for the privileged few. It's about building a future where the truth doesn't have to break in because it's already been welcomed in. But that only happens when people stop being afraid of the truth, when they stop hiding behind comfort, power, or apathy. Because fear of truth is what keeps the cycle spinning. Fear of truth is what allows injustice to hide in plain sight. And if you let that fear control you, you will miss your purpose. You were not born to be blind to truth. You were born to carry it, to stand in it, to speak it, not just when it's popular, but especially when it's costly, Because truth has never been easy. It's always come with a price. But the cost of ignoring it is far greater. You may lose friends. You may lose comfort. You may lose your place in rooms where truth is not welcome. But what you gain is deeper. You gain integrity. You gain clarity. You gain the strength to live a life that actually means something. Because there's a difference between existing and living. And living starts the moment you stop running from the truth, the moment you stop making excuses, the moment you stop pointing fingers and start asking questions, real questions, hard questions, questions that force you to look beyond your own world, questions that make you uncomfortable. That's where truth leads you, into discomfort that produces growth. The truth doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need permission. It moves with purpose. And it's moving now. You can feel it in the tension. You can feel it in the shifts. You can feel it in the discomfort of conversations that used to be easy and are now layered with meaning. That's truth. Walking into the room and refusing to be ignored. And the truth is this: America has problems that can't be fixed by pretending they don't exist. It has wounds that won't heal through denial. It has broken systems that won't repair themselves. But none of that is the end. It's only the beginning, if we're willing to face it. If we're willing to stop asking, how can I stay safe? And start asking, how can I be part of the solution? That's when change begins. You don't need to be perfect to carry the truth. You just need to be honest. You need to be willing to see what others won't, to say what others won't, to do what others won't. Because truth doesn't break in to punish, it breaks in to wake us up. And once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend not to see. You can't unknow what you now know. The only choice left is whether you'll act on it. So when truth comes knocking or breaking, it's not your enemy. It's your mirror. It's your teacher. It's your reminder that something greater is possible. And it starts with you, with courage, with honesty, with a decision to live in the light, even when it's uncomfortable. The truth is already broken in. Now the question is, what will you do with it? You don't change the world by looking away. You don't change it by scrolling past the pain, by turning off the news when it gets uncomfortable, or by pretending someone else will take care of it. The world doesn't move forward because people ignore what's wrong. It moves when someone, anyone, stands up and says, I see it, I won't ignore it, I'm going to do something about it. That's how history is shaped. That's how change is born. Not in silence, not in stillness, but in the bold decision to face what's hard and do what's right. You see, we live in a time where people think awareness is enough, that knowing the facts, sharing a post, liking a comment, that somehow counts as action. But knowing isn't the same as doing. Being aware isn't the same as being engaged. You don't build a better world with good intentions. You build it with courage, with sweat, with tears, with action that costs you something. Looking away has become easy. It's almost automatic. We've trained ourselves to ignore the things that hurt. Poverty, just another statistic. Racism, too complicated to deal with. Violence, that's someone else's problem. But behind every headline is a life. Behind every crisis is a family. And behind every injustice is a person crying out to be seen, to be heard, to be helped. When we look away, we tell them they don't matter. We say with our silence that our comfort is more important than their pain. But here's the truth. Every time you choose to look away, the problem grows. Injustice grows in the shadows. Corruption grows in silence. Division grows in apathy. You don't fight darkness by turning off the light. You fight it by shining brighter, standing taller, speaking louder. You fight it by showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. We all have a responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to each other, to the people we'll never meet, to the generations coming after us? What kind of world are we handing them? One where silence is normal? One where it's okay to ignore pain as long as it's not your own? That's not the legacy we're meant to leave. The legacy we're meant to leave is one of action, of compassion, of courage. You don't need to be rich to make a difference. You don't need to be famous. You just need to care. You just need to show up. You just need to stop looking away and start asking, what can I do right here, right now? Because there's always something, a voice to raise, a hand to lend, a step to take. And those small steps, they add up. That's how movements are built. That's how justice rolls forward. One voice, one act, one heart at a time. But it's not easy. The world will tell you to mind your business, to stay quiet, to keep your head down. They'll say it's not your problem. But the truth is, if you live in this world, it is your problem. If you breathe this air, if you benefit from this system, if you walk these streets, it's your problem. And your silence doesn't make you neutral. It makes you part of the structure that keeps people down.